This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It's so great to have you joining me here in these online lessons. It's a Theory Thursday, so we got some fretboard theory in this lesson. This is actually the first lesson in what will be a collection of several lessons that are going to go over forming chords on the guitar. So we'll start off here with how we do major and minor chords in first position, and we'll be building from there both all along the neck and in first position with lots of different chord types. So several lessons to come in relation to this. It's such an important thing that we do on guitar is we play chords. We play melodies, single notes at a time, and then we play chords. So foundational, so awesome, so fun. Let's dive in. So in this lesson, we're going to focus in on probably the two most common types of chords that exist, and that's the major chords and the minor chords. We play these types of chords all the time on the guitar. Just a little bit of theory here. It is Theory Thursday after all to explain these. So we've done a lot of work on Theory Thursdays with understanding the major scale. I've got the C major scale written up here on the board. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. The C major chord comes out of notes straight from this scale. We take the first, third, and fifth steps of the scale. In the last Theory Thursday lesson, I went over intervals. We know that the root is step 1, and that the third is actually a major third interval above the root, and the fifth is actually a perfect fifth interval above the root. And that's the defining characteristics of a major chord. When we're just working with 3 notes, we call that a triad. So this is a major triad, but when we actually play chords on the guitar, we usually end up doubling pitches and expanding our voicing to include more than just 3 notes. Sometimes we don't, but most of the time we do. So we'll look at that, but first, just looking at it as a triad, we have the C, E, and G. That root to that major third, that root to that perfect fifth, put those together and we have a C major chord. The chord symbol for a major chord is just the name of the root. Whatever the root is, the name of that root is the chord symbol. So I have a C written there, and I just have it written out as a chord. 3 notes sounding together. When we only have 2 notes that sound together, that's technically, in theory terms, a harmonic interval. But when we start to get more than that, we have a chord. So we have a chord here, 3 different pitches, the root, the major third, and the perfect fifth. Now, what makes it a minor chord? Well, we haven't gone over minor scales yet on these Theory Thursday lessons. There's actually a lot of different minor scales, and there's some that influence chords differently. But at this triad level with just the root, third, and fifth, it doesn't really matter. So I just have flatted the third here, or lowered the third. That's the defining characteristic of a minor scale, which we'll learn about in some future lessons on Theory Thursday. And it's the defining characteristic of the minor chord. So if I take my C major scale and I flat the third or lower the third by a half step or a minor second interval, I end up with a minor scale, a C minor scale. The one I just played, ascending and descending, is that of the melodic minor flavor. But the only part that we really care about is up to that fifth. So I've got the root, the third, and the fifth. The big difference between the major scale and minor scale here in this example and in all examples of the chords, the major chord and the minor chord, is that the third is lowered by a half step and we have a minor third sitting above that root instead of a major third interval. A minor third interval instead of a major third, and we still have a perfect fifth. So instead of having C, E, G, I now have C, E flat, G. Root, minor third. That is the defining characteristic of the minor chord versus the major chord, is that lowered third. Okay, so that's our foundational knowledge. How do we actually create these chords in first position on the guitar? I've got over here drawn out the notes. Now, if you went through where on the Theory Thursdays where we went through the chromatic scale, this should be very familiar to you. It's all these notes in first position. Also, if you went through the lessons where we did the major scale and the major keys in first position, those two lessons are really important in helping us figure out how to play the chords actually in first position. Those lessons really help, and the circle of fourths, because we need to know the pitches when we're doing things in first position. Or we've got this handy dandy diagram. You could draw one just like it, or take a snapshot here of the board where you have that drawn out for you as you see how we do these chords in first position. So the C chord first. Now, what we want to do is these three low strings on the guitar are known as the bass strings. We're going to find our lowest root on one of those three strings. So we want to find the root and where it's located. There's only three notes that are located more than once on those three strings, and that's E, F, and F sharp. So with those, we have the top four string, we have an option with just the top four strings, and then we have an option that comes down from the sixth string and can go up, so all six strings. So those are the only ones that have more than one option. All the other ones only have one option. And so when we choose one of those, we can look at multiple options. But for now, we're looking for C, and there's only one place on those three strings where we have a C, and that's right at the 3rd fret of the 5th string. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with that low root, that foundational pitch. Then what I'm going to do is, I know that the C chord has the notes C, E, and G. So as I move up the strings, I'm going to look on each string for whether it has a C, an E, or a G note. Most of the chords only have one option. There are a couple chords in first position that actually have more than one option, but for the most part in first position there is only one option, and we take that option. And then for a couple chords we actually do have multiple ones. We'll look at that, but with this one we don't. So we start off with the C. I move up to the 4th string and I'm looking for a C note, an E note, or a G note. I have an E at the 2nd fret, so I can play E at the 2nd fret of the 4th string. We go up to the next string and I have a G that's open. So my open G string works there. As we go up to the next string, I have a C at the 1st fret. So my index finger goes on that C at the 1st fret. And then on the top string, we have an E or a G. So we have two different options. This is one of the examples where we actually have two different options. If we play this 3, 2, open, index, and then we have the open with that E on top, we have the C chord that's probably familiar to you if you've played the guitar much and you've played a C chord. Or we have this alternate voicing where we can put our pinky on that G that sits at the 3rd fret on the top string. So we have two different voicing options here. C and C, just like that. And that's how we play a C chord, and that's all we've got. Now, C minor doesn't work very well in first position. We need the E flat. That takes away our open strings, and it works as a minor chord, like a bar chord. We're going to work on bar chords and movable shapes in future lessons, not in this lesson. So other than to play that C as is, just these three, C, E flat, and the open G, that's comfortable. We can also add the C there if you have the fingers for it. But we have to somehow mute or reach for that G on the top string. Pretty soon it's very uncomfortable. And that's why we don't play C minor in first position unless we're doing it as a bar chord, which we're covering in future lessons. Let's look at some other chords though. So, for example, A. Now this is where, having learned the major scales or understanding the circle of fourths, which were explained in those Theory Thursday lessons on the major scale and first position, so you can check those out if you haven't already or don't already know the notes in first position and how this works. It helps to know what the notes of that major scale are. So, the A major scale, I happen to know, so I'm just going to say, has a C sharp, a G sharp, and an F sharp. So 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp would be the way it goes in order around that cycle of fifths, or that circle. So if I play my A major scale, then I have A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. So to figure out what notes are in the A major chord, I of course have the root, A, and then I'm going to find step 3, so I skip over the B, step 2, and go to C sharp, so C sharp is in the chord. And then as I continue, I have the D, so I'm going to skip over that one, that's step 4, and then I have the E, which is step 5. And so I want that A, C sharp, and E. Those are the 3 notes that are in my A chord. So on the low 3 strings, I find my A, which is at the open 5th string. So that's going to be my low root. Then I move up to the 4th string and I look for A, C sharp, and E. There's an E at the 2nd fret, so I'm going to have E played there at the 2nd fret of the 4th string. We move up to the 3rd string. I have an A at the 2nd fret, so I'm going to be playing that A at the 2nd fret. We move up to the next string and I have a C sharp at the 2nd fret. So on that 2nd string, I got to play that C sharp. On the top string, I have the open E. So when I play A, this is my only option for playing A. Sometimes there's multiple options, or there's a couple, like we had with the C major chord, but most of the time there's not. So here is an A major chord, so an A chord, just like that. And that's how we figure them out in first position. Now, if we wanted to play the A minor chord, which we actually do a lot of in first position, what's the trick? How do I find my A minor? Well, I have to take the 3rd of the chord, which we know is C sharp. So A, B, C sharp, and all I got to do is lower it by 1 fret. So I got to make it a minor 3rd interval instead of a major 3rd interval. That takes me to C. So I know that my A minor chord has an A note, a C note, and an E note, and that's how that works. So now I go through, and if I want to play A minor, I again follow these same steps. I got to find my lowest root. So I have an A on that open 5th string. Same thing, same root. And then as I move to the next string, the 4th string, again I have the E. And then as I move to the 3rd string, my option is again that A at the 2nd fret. So E at the 2nd fret on the 4th string, A at the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. As I move to the B string, or the open 2nd string, I've got my C natural at that 1st fret on that 2nd string. And then as we move to the top string, we have the E again, and we get A minor. So you've probably played that chord a lot, and that's why we finger it that way. We got A minor. So we have A major versus A minor. And the chord symbol for the minor chords has the root and either a lowercase m or a minus sign. That's what we see with the chord symbols. So this would have an A written because that's our root, and then a lowercase m or a minus sign. Sometimes you'll even see indicated like M-I-N. It's a little overkill, but sometimes it'll be written like that too. So a little abbreviation for minor. So minor versus major. And we can do this with any of the chords in first position. Now, sometimes with bar chords, like when we have chords that have flats in them, then we start to lose our open strings, because these are the strings that end up being flatted first. B goes, then E, then A, then D, then G. That's the order of the flats. So we just lose strings, and the more we do that, the more we have to bar. And those can be challenging to find in first position. We'll do one example though, the F chord. The F chord, in the key of F major, we have one flat, which is B flat. Now the nice thing about the F major though, is that the chord doesn't actually use B flat. So this one is one that we play in first position some, but it's actually a bar chord as well. So the F major scale has F, G, A, and then it has a B flat, C, D, E, and F. This is one that also has 2 notes, so we can play it all 6 strings or the top 4 strings. Let's look at it just from the top 4 strings. So, because that's where I played the scale, and it'll just be kind of helpful with our F chords. So we're looking for the notes of the F major scale. We're looking for the notes 1, 3, and 5 from the F major scale for that F major chord. So we have F as step 1, we skip G to step 2, and then we're up to A, which is step 3. So we have an A as our major 3rd, and then the B flat is step 4. We're skipping that one, and then we're going up to that 5th, which is C. So F, A, and C. So we have the F there at the 3rd fret on that 4th string. When we get to the next string, all we have is A as the option at the 2nd fret. When we get to the 2nd string, we just have the C at the 1st fret as our option. We get to the top, we have the F at the 1st fret, and so we get F just like that. Now, if we wanted to make it minor, we know that the 3rd is going to be lowered by a half step or a minor second. So our A is going to go down to A flat. So the F stays the same. When we get to the A, it's coming down to A flat. When we get to the next string, we still have C, and then the top string we still have F. So we have F minor. F major versus F minor. Now if we wanted to do the full 6th string version, we can back it up and we put our F on that low 6th string. On our next string, we have C at the 3rd fret of the 5th string, and then the rest of them happen to be the same, but we're fingering it slightly different. So we got F versus F minor. And there's a second example, and you could do this with the other ones as well. The note or the chords that we tend to play in first position the most spell the word caged, C-A-G-E-D. Basically, we have a chord off every natural pitch of our musical alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then any of the other ones that have sharps and flats that built off those chromatic pitches, those are bar chord shapes. And we're going to learn about that, or we're going to discuss how those are formed in future Theory Thursday lessons. And then with that, though, only some of the minor ones are easily fingered or commonly played in first position, like C minor, not so much, but all the major ones are there. So, and you can play with the ones that are minor, but those are the keys to start with, are those sharp keys, and off those particular root notes, C, A, G, E, and D, and that basically gets you all the chords we have in first position that are major chords, just major triads expanded to a larger voicing with some of those pitches being doubled. Okay, so that wraps us up for this lesson. We're off to a great start with how chords are formed on the guitar. In the next Theory Thursday lesson, we're going to take this information with major and minor chords, and we're going to look at playing major and minor triads along the fretboard. And then from there, we'll look at how that expands into fuller voicings. So it's going to be great. Hope you're having fun with this. Of course, we have the mini-series lessons that come out on Saturdays and the technique tidbit lessons on Tuesdays and a whole bunch of other lessons that are already on the channel. So lots of great information and help with playing the guitar. Hope you're having fun with it. Take care, and we'll see you again. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.